Today is the completion of 30 days of the passing of Aaron Meir, alav hashalom. And first of all, I'd like to thank everyone on behalf of the family, on behalf of the Trappler family, to everyone and anyone who has come, who has been by our side through this very difficult time. And no one's presence has gone unnoticed, and the phone calls and texts to family members, everything has been very much appreciated. And from now on, we should only share simchas together, only happy occasions. Having said that, 30 days in Yiddishkeit represents the completion of a time where the neshama has gone through certain steps, and then there's the 11 months, Siyum HaKadosh, and then the Yartzeit. Before I introduce the first speaker, I'd like to tell you that Aaron Meir was a very unique person. He wasn't the type of person who just wanted to be in a box. He was out of the box. He wasn't conventional. He wasn't a member of a specific shul, but he loved davening with a minyan. He went hopping from one shul to another, and whomever he came into contact with, he made that encounter meaningful and put a smile on that person's face, whomever it was that he came into contact with. One of the shuls that he frequented a lot, and he felt at home there, was the Aliyah Institute on East New York Avenue, led by Rabbi Moshe Feiglin, whose work in this community is tremendous, and his impact on Aaron Meir's life was truly amazing. And Aaron Meir felt very comfortable to call Rabbi Feiglin whenever he had anything to discuss, and we really appreciate that. Without further ado, Rabbi Moshe Feiglin.
It's a great honor, and I feel very humbled to be speaking at the Shloshim with such a great individual, Aaron Meir. I've known Aaron Meir for 10 years, and I can say that he was a great inspiration. I learned a lot from him. I was always mesmerized by his confidence and his belief in himself, and he had ideas which no one else thought had any chance of success, but he was sure that it was going to be successful, and he went for it, and he had this tremendous sense of self-belief, which I admired tremendously. When I heard the tragic news to Meir, it was extremely horrible, and unfortunately, in the line of work that I do, it was unfortunately not the first, but actually the 7th time I had such a horrible phone call, and I can tell you that the phone calls don't get any easier with time. And every time that a tragedy like this happens, when a young man is pulled away from us at a ripe young age, it brings up a lot of questions, and it leaves us with wondering, what can we do, and how can we ever stop this from ever happening again? So, I think this question unfortunately has come up so many times, and we think about it so much, that I've come to the realization that life and death is not something which is in our hands. We don't decide when people are going to be born. We don't decide where they're going to die, when they leave this world. The only thing that we can decide is how we want to live as individuals and how we want to make the most of our relationships, and we want to invest in our relationships. There are a lot of people that if you look around, you could think that this person is very troubled, and he looks like he's maybe a high-risk person, and you might think, what can I do for this person? But the truth is that once people fall into the category of high risk, very often there's not that much that you can do for them. But there's plenty of people out there in the world that are not high risk. And there's people out there that need that love and affection, that people that need a compliment, people need a smile, people need a warm hug, people need somebody to talk to, even if they may look like a regular, healthy young person. Everybody today needs to feel like they're valuable. Everybody needs to feel like they matter, that they're important, without fail. And what I've taken out from this is that why wait for somebody to fall into a category where you may not be able to help them, when you can focus on helping people when they're still healthy. And every single person has so many relationships. We have so many people in our lives that we may not pay much attention to, that we don't notice that much. And they look like they're doing okay, so if it ain't broke, then don't fix it. But sometimes on the outside, they might look like everything's okay, but on the inside, they're very much broken. And you'll never know. So the solution is, look at everybody that involved in your life. Look at everybody that you come in touch with as if they are somebody that's high risk. And give them that extra attention and give them the extra affection that you would give somebody if you thought that they were really in deep trouble. And if we do that, and if we go about our relationships in our lives with that perspective, then you may not realize it, but I'm 100% sure that you'll actually be saving lives, without a doubt. And even if, God forbid, well, hopefully you won't be saving lives because they aren't at such high risk, but nonetheless, it's a mitzvah v'ahavta kamecha. So it's a mitzvah either way. It's a win-win. But if we take on this attitude, there's always been like this claim against Chabad. Everyone's very nice and friendly to people on the outside. When it comes to people on the inside, we don't pay enough attention to. I believe that's been changing lately. I think that it is changing, but however much it has changed, I believe it can really change more. And the way this attitude changes is on a personal level, on an individual level, where every single person can just think through, go through the contact list, go through people in their family, friends, anybody, and just think, who out there could use a compliment? And we have no idea how powerful a compliment can be. When you give somebody a compliment, you're validating them. You're making them feel like they're important. You're making them feel like they count. You're making them feel like they mean something to you. Even a smile. When you smile, you meet somebody. Somebody told me that the only reason why they come to Aliyah is because I smile to them when I see them on the street. I said, wow, that's very touching. He said, yeah, absolutely. You smile, and I know that when you see me, I make you happy. So therefore, I want to come because I feel good when you smile to me. So I figure if there's one person who actually told that to me, how many other people didn't tell it to me, but it may have made a difference to? And the biggest gift you can give to people don't cost any money. The gift of a smile or a compliment or a hug or somebody that needs to talk, just being available, being present with them. When you see they have something on their mind they want to share, sit there and just be there with them and listen to what they have to say. And once they'll start talking, they feel comfortable to talk, then they may bring things up that they never had an opportunity to talk to anybody about because they never thought anybody cared or it made a difference to anybody. But now that they see that it does make a difference, now that they see that there is somebody who cares, and here's an opportunity for them to talk about things that have been bothering them for a long time. And like I said before, even if they were not necessarily high risk, but they just needed somebody to listen to them, either way you get a mitzvah of v'ahavta kamecha. So when I heard the tragic news about Meir, I was actually reading in Hayom Yom that day. It was the Alter Rebbe's yard site. And it says over there that the Alter Rebbe asked the Tzemach Tzedek, what was the intention? What was Zayda's intention of Chassidus? And the Tzemach Tzedek answered The Darche Chassidus is as alle Chassidim soll sein wie ein Mishpacha, al pi Torah ba'ava. That the whole purpose of a Chassidus is that all Chassidim should feel like they're one family, with love. And this is something which Meir definitely had, and he had that love. But now it's time for us to reflect that love, and to live it, and to experience it, and to share it back on with everybody else in our lives. When tragedies happen, it hits everybody in a very painful way. Now, most people get hurt, but then they go back along their regular lives. They get busy with the businesses, with their careers, with the family. Life moves on, and they gradually, with time, they get over it. The family, however, it's a wound for life. There's no such thing as getting over a family tragedy. But after looking at this Hayom Yom, I realized that when a tragedy strikes, when we hear this, we shouldn't just say, okay, listen, we've got to move on. But it has to penetrate us, and we need to internalize the message and make it something real, and make it something that will stay with us for life, not just in a spare of the moment, not just instantly. If we really feel like the tragedies that happen is our own family, it happened to our own family member, then we'll make real moves in our own lives to make sure that it never ever happens again. So obviously, like I said in the beginning, nobody here has a say of when a person is born, and no one has a say when a person dies. But what we do know is we have an ability to make our relationships more meaningful, have the ability to share love and affection with people, and you never ever know who that person is in our midst that needs that extra love and affection. And I think what my response has been when people ask me to come speak in different shuls and to come and speak in different audiences, or people call me when a tragedy happens, what's our response? The only response that I can think of is just to try to fight it with more love. And the more love that we share with each other, with family members, with students, with even people that we don't know, the more we know that we're doing our best to make sure a tragedy never happens again. And that's at least my feelings from tonight. And I hope everybody takes one of these beautiful achlatas that are on this paper, and together, if we take on a new attitude and a new paradigm, then we'll definitely make a difference. And hopefully we'll all see Mashiach, and we'll see Meir back here with us, together with all the other tragic people that left us in the coming Mashiach. Good vach.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Feiglin, for your inspiring and heartfelt words. I'd like to make a l'chaim, schus for Aaron Meir, Neshama shel have an aliyah, and we should only share simchas together. Chaim. One of the things that Aaron Meir exemplified, there are a lot of things that he exemplified, but one of them was his tremendous Avos Yisrael, his tremendous love for a fellow Yid, someone whom he didn't even know. At times, he met for the first time, and that person automatically felt loved. One story that was told over during the Shiva, which I heard, was after Lichtbenchen, Erev Sukkos, and one of the neighbors on the block had someone staying over there, and for something happened that person who was staying there needed to be rushed to the hospital, mamish, right before Yom Tov. And the person was going to the hospital right before Yom Tov, so I want to put him in the ambulance, Atzala, whatever it was, and weitergegangen. You don't start thinking you need to take his das or his yents. And they were starting to look around for the Lulav and Esrig. No one found the Lulav and Esrig. They said the ambulance has to go. This is Pashat Pekuach Nefesh. So they went to the hospital. Later that night, Aaron Meir went and took the Lulav and Esrig and walked to Methodist Hospital and came back at 6 o'clock in the morning, and went to sleep. No one knew the story. He didn't tell anyone. He didn't advertise it. He didn't advertise the story at all. That was who he was. And everyone knows Aaron Meir was a guy who got around, and he had business cards, and every few weeks his business cards changed, but he was, he's looking around for jobs, and he had one of his jobs that he had was his last month here in the United States, last year Hanukkah. He was looking around for a job, and I'm going to read what he wrote on his Facebook page shortly after Hanukkah, and then I will introduce the next speaker. This is what he writes. Hanukkah is the festival of lights. A little prayer goes a long way. I've been out of work and not sure when looking for work what means we're looking for a job, an environment that I would want. Before Hanukkah is Yutas Kislev, when the Tanya was printed. The Tanya is Hasidic teachings and is followed by the Jewish religious sect known as Chabad Movement. I decided, despite how religious I may or may not be, I will pray with a minyan, which, in case you didn't know, needs to consist of 10 Jews praying together. I went to pray because, considering my current life and financial situation, as well as quite a few other areas in my life, I felt like I really needed help from the man upstairs. Or if you feel the need to use specific labels, God. While in Shul, I ran into a well-known rabbi, Chabad advocate, a shliach, as well as a well-known and respected chaplain at Hunter College. We have known each other somewhat for a while because we both live and spend time in the same community, Crown Heights in Brooklyn, New York. When heading out to pray, I held one intention or desire, let's say, in mind, and that desire was simply this: God, please help me get a job. Well, I got way more than I asked or bargained for. I have spoke with him, and he's talking about Rabbi Baruch Jacobsen many times in the past about different things, and found him to be smart, humorous, interesting, and a good listener. On top of his other qualities, I find him to have a perfect mix, a sense of wonder about the world and life, combined with raw but humorously intelligent insights and perspectives. I mentioned to him I was looking for work, and would you believe it? The next day, I met and interviewed with him for a part-time job. I worked with him for an amazing week, mostly at Hunter College, and what an amazing, fun, and inspiring experience it has been. Hashem answered my prayer not according to what I thought I needed, but He gave me what I actually needed, and some. Yes, He has paid me some money for the work I have done, but that is not the real payment. The real payment was to have been the pleasure and privilege to see the man behind the man. I have soaked in every word and conversation we have had together, and for that I am eternally grateful. We turned out to be a perfect match of people as far as personalities go. He showed me the inside of his world, and I saw him and spent time with him on a very personal level. I loved him unconditionally. He needed not to act like a rabbi and play the official persona of a rabbi. In return, he looked at me and accepted me as I am. And by allowing me to be me, I did for him what a messenger does for a king, so to speak. That acceptance motivates me more than any rules and regulations ever would. Without further ado, Rabbi Baruch Jacobsen.
I want to suggest that we start with a niggin. Ya 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 ya. Tzemach Tzedek told. I heard this from Abel Mochkin from Montreal. That there was once a very Pashut Yid. On the outside, he looked very simple. And after he passed away, and his neshama went up to Gan Eden, there at the heavenly court, they started to review his life story. And they started measuring his mitzvahs, his good deeds, his day-to-day behavior, and they couldn't find a lot of mitzvahs. They found basic things, tmimus, very sincere, very plain. He never hurt anybody, but nothing to write home about. So they put him in the corridor, in the foyer. They couldn't send him chas v'sholem to where people who are evil go. But to go into Gan Eden, you have to have at least some ID. Suddenly, a tremendous rumbling sound was heard on the heavens. Very loud noise, and it didn't stop. Big banging, like huge sledgehammers. Like when they build the sidewalks, what do they call those? Jackhammers. And everyone in the heavenly court was very surprised. The heavens, especially at a time when a neshama comes there after spending his mission in this world, is usually very quiet. You can hear even a whisper. There's no whispers even. This is Hashem's true world, the Olam HaEmes. What is this noise? And there's no tabloids, and there's no Facebook, and there's none of this to spread either good news or the opposite of good news. So nobody knows how to find out what's going on. So the malachim, the good malachim, we sing Shalom Aleichem before Shabbos. We go to every home and witness what goes on in a home. They come with bright news that there is a testimony, there's exhibits to be shown. There are witnesses from down below, from the earth, from our planet, that are going to testify on behalf of this neshama that he goes straight to Gan Eden without any delay. What was this noise? Who are these witnesses? This Jew used to say Tehillim. He didn't know Tehillim. He made a lot of mistakes. But wherever he went, he said Tehillim. In the morning he said Tehillim, at night he said Tehillim. Then everyone's told a similar story. It's printed in the back of the Tehillim that there was once a Pashut Yid that said Tehillim even when you're not allowed to daven or say Psukim. He didn't know. He knew Tehillim. He said it all the time. So who was the witnesses? Who were the witnesses? So Tzemach Tzedek finished the story by saying, we say it in Tehillim. It's a pasuk in Tehillim. We say it in Hallel. Mikimi me offer dol me ashpis yorim evyoin. Mikimi me offer dol, lift me up from the dirt, from the ashpis, from the garbage. Hashem, lift me up. Mikimi me offer dol. A poor person asks Hashem. David HaMelech, the sweet singer of Israel, we sing in his. David HaMelech said these psukim of Tehillim on behalf of all the Yidden for all time. So we daven to Hashem, Mikimi, pick me up, me offer. So the court was told, all the offer, all the earth upon which this man stepped is here to testify of what kind of neshama he is and was. And the Mela, the doors are open, all the green lights went on, and because you can't say they happily lived after, they lived happily ever after, but the neshama went to its world of truth and to Gan Eden. There's a similar story, mainly the similarity because of the name of the nifter, Aaron Meir ben Baruch, but it has a slight connection. The Meir Primishlan, Meir Primishlan was a good Yid, and the mikveh of Primishlan was located at the bottom of a hill. when it got snowy and icy, everyone had to go to the mikveh. They had to go around the hill, except for one person, a Meir, this tzaddik, a Meir Primishland. He went up and down. I don't think he was a skier. He went up and down without falling, without slipping. So two fellows who wanted to make a little fun, he probably has a trick here, a secret rope or something. They went to copy him, and he went down safely, and they fell and hurt themselves. And they felt bad. They went to run into the mayor, and they said, listen, what we did was foolish to try to see what... We didn't believe in miracles. We didn't believe in tzidkas. Something else is here. We were very sorry. Please tell us what's your secret. How is it that everybody else slips and has to go around the mountain, and you have this confidence? He says it's simple. Meir is zugebunden Eiben. When you're connected above, you don't fall below. It's difficult to talk because we had an unbelievable experience together, and in fact, I recently found his Meir's hat in my in the office, where we work together across the street from his home. I have a little office, my mother's house, and I found a winter hat. It was a warm day, and he left the hat, and he never came back for it. But I wasn't going to throw it away. I put it in with my most valuable archives. This is where I found this. I'll soon explain. And I felt, after I heard this story, I went to work, and I give a look at the hat. It's sitting there on top of the shelf where I put away the most valuable documents or books that my father collected over the years. And his hat is sitting right up there, still there. And I thought to myself, this must be a message. I knew he's trying to tell me. I felt the presence, a very positive presence. Whenever May would come to work, he always made me laugh, and we made each other laugh. So it was always a very positive experience. I felt that in the room. I don't believe in ghosts, but I did feel the neshama feeling. And I said, he knew that he's going to come back. He knew. He left the hat. You only leave something if you know you're going to come back and get it. I came here to share with you a Mishnah. We say that Mishnah is the same letters like neshama. It's the same letters. It's a common tradition. All people who are mourning for their parents or for a loved one, they learn Mishnayos. Some try to learn the entire Mishnayos. In communities, we are supported by friends and family with so many different stages. Some of the people who know the families are Talmidei Chachamim and know the whole Mishnayos anyway. So we divide the Mishnayos among the community, and everybody takes a Mishnah. I'm happy to say that I finished my the resolution I took upon myself, Masechta Brachos, and today I want to share with you a siyum on that Mishnah with a little message how it connects to me. But before that, I want to share with you some notes that I prepared before my father passed. Before the Shloshim of my father. And finally, we're going to conclude with. I'm going to mention at the end of my speech. Okay, I'll let you know in a minute. Why was this world created? We all know it says in Medrash Tanchuma that the world was created because the Creator wants a dira b'tachtonim, a home. He wants a place where people can share and care and love for each other. When does Hashem create the world? Every single day. B'chol dor v'dor, every generation. B'chol yoyim v'yoyim. And this is why the Alter Rebbe quotes the Maimar Razal that we say in the 12 Psukim. B'chol dor v'dor, b'chol yoyim v'yoyim, chayiv adam liris atzma ki'ilu hu yatzam Mitzrayim. Yetzias Mitzrayim was not 3,000 plus years ago. The creation was not 5,000 years ago. This happens every single day. Jump a minute to the Hayoim Yoim of Hey Teves. The Rebbe tells us in that Hayoim Yoim that Melech' will give us to understand how great is the service of sincerity. Herzige, ernste avoida. Mashiach will show us the greatness of being humble, of being simple and sincere, and to show how much we believe with pure emunah that Hashem is Hashem, and therefore His Torah and His mitzvahs are special. Jump to Hayom Yom Chavdalad Eir. Bebias Mashiach, when Mashiach will come, there will be a revelation of the simplicity, the advantage of simpletons, of simplicity, the sincerity that exists among simple people, Anoshim Pshutim, who daven and who say Tehillim with a full heart. And finally, we're going to come now to the video. We're in the Hayom Yom of 18 of Sivan. The Rebbe tells us how it's so important in this Dira B'Tachtonim that Hashem created, and right in the beginning, V'ruach Elikim Merachefes al Pnei Hamoyim, Hashem already had in mind when He first created the world that Mashiach will come and complete this world, which is the generation that we're living in now. We are going to see in the video the Rebbe, in a very, I should say, happy, positive mood, teaches us a very important lesson for all of us that we can walk away tonight, walking out of the show. And it's based on this Yud Ches Sivan Hayom Yom, where the Rebbe suggests that we all try to reach out to another person and see how you're doing. Brother, you remember the expression, can you spare a dime? Brother, how are you doing? Go ahead.
Up, right? Who did the electricity?
In 1977, on Yutes Kislev, the Rebbe launched a campaign that every person should have a Moshpiah. Then it was called a Moshpiah. We're not going to necessarily right now go into all the details of the Rebbe's campaign, but hopefully with the Hachlata page that you're getting after we get the Sikha, the family will, and the community, hopefully the idea was to prepare more materials that can guide us we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Based on the Rebbe's advice, we have a program of how every single person, man, woman, and child, will feel comfortable and happy to choose a mentor, how this Sikha will show us as well. That was in 1977. This Sikha is Purim, what does it say on the page? Purim 1987. So it's not a coincidence that you're watching this Sikha exactly 10 years after the Rebbe launched the campaign for every person to choose a Moshpiah. Then they used to say there's going to be on every block there was a Moshpiah. I told someone they should make a little sign, a plaque on the street poles. If a child is on President Street, you should know who's the Moshpiah on this block. 10 years later, in 1987, the Rebbe launched an extensive campaign and now used also the word Aseh L'Charav based on the Pirkei Avos, which the Rebbe is going to now discuss. In Pirkei Avos, chapter 1, the Mishnah tells us twice in one chapter Aseh L'Charav, but it was the same idea, and the Rebbe explains exactly what his plan is. You ready? So now you have the paper. First of all, on the back, we have the Yiddish. It's not a real edited sikha, it's just a quick transcript of what we felt would be easier if you didn't catch all the details and you want to figure out. So one person asked me, why was the Rebbe laughing? So if you read the sikha in Yiddish or English, if you want to take it home, we made it compact and simple. We didn't make it on fancy paper or in a book, because that's going to end up, here you have it, you can put it away with some of your papers, and hopefully turn it over and discuss with your family, or with yourself, or with your Rav, some of these resolutions. They called it unofficially the Ami Initiative, the Aaron Meir Initiative. Ami, my people. Just a catchy phrase. We have here 4 suggestions. One is V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Rabbi Feiglin mentioned that. Thank you, Rabbi Feiglin. You can do it in many ways. We translate loving our fellow as much as we love ourselves. It doesn't have to be in a revolutionary way. The smallest thing, a little love, goes very far. The second one is Aseh l'charav. The Rebbe explained it very clearly. Just to add one word, objectivity. It's all about being objective. You cannot see your own situation, even if it's good, or even if it's bad, or anywhere in between. A person looks in the mirror, you're seeing yourself. A second person could tell you that that's not so bad looking. You're here, it doesn't look as bad as you think. Or if you think you're the greatest accomplished person, the Rav will tell you, yes, but tomorrow you can accomplish more. A Rav is not your adversary. A Rav could be your best friend. You don't have to start by telling the Rav your whole story. I asked a few people, you have a Rav? Yeah, but I haven't talked to him in a few months because he won't believe what's going on in my life, and I'm ashamed, and da-da-da. I said, don't speak about everything. Speak about one thing. Speak about one thing. The Rav will be the most honored. He's going to get the benefits. Maybe he hasn't been called by anybody for the last 6 months. You'll be the one who makes him feel good. Then you have pick up the phone. Everyone knows there's a song going around. When you pick up the phone, something like that. Who is it? Shrekki? Schmelzer? I'm not here to endorse anybody, but it's catchy. I think we can spread it like it can go viral. And that's what we want. Pick up the phone, somebody that you haven't spoken to, Abba, Tanta, anybody. If it's something that maybe unfinished business, you said something to somebody and you really didn't mean it, and am I going to be the first one to say sorry, or am I going to be the first one? What's the difference? Pick up the phone. What can go wrong? You're not going to get into a bigger fight. And finally, tzedakah, the family prepared pennies. Please take a penny, go to the bank, pick up for $1. You get 100 pennies. No, I'm not sorry. You get 2 rolls, whatever it is. I haven't been in the bank in a while. I'm not hinting anything. Take a penny, 2 pennies. We don't need the big money. We're talking about little monies, because then you can give a whole year for 12 months. Of course, as the Rebbe says, a penny a day, and then on Friday, 2 pennies. Or on Erev Yom Tov, if it's a 3-day holiday, of course, 3 pennies before candle lighting time. Why am I suggesting this, and why am I making it simple? Because if you look at all the sichos in Tavshin Yud and Yud Aleph, if you look at some of the sichos, even before the Rebbe became Rebbe, by Reb Leivik, Chaf Av, by Tavshin Chaf Hey, 1964, the Rebbe Tzechana, you'll see that the goal is on the Neshama never dies. And the Neshama is a chelik elika mima'al mamash. It's a Perek in Tanya. Literally a piece of God. However you want to explain it, we're not going now into philosophy, like I used to tell May many times. When we got into conversation, this is not philosophy. We want to get action done. And the Neshama is a chelik elika mima'al mamash, so the family and the friends and the community have an opportunity to help the Neshama go and have an aliyah, and therefore we learn Mishnayos, like I said before, Neshama, and we give tzedakah in honor or any mitzvah. You want to say Moeda'ani with a little bit more kavanah? Do that. Wash negel vasa, not in the bathtub, in part of the shower. Take a kvart, like it says in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the Rebbe says, and wash 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going into details because I'm also a teacher for youngsters. And children need to learn. And some of us got rusty in some of these areas. Take one small mitzvah. It doesn't matter which one it is. One mitzvah will eventually lead to another in the honor of Aaron Meir. I think I'm going to do the Mishnah now. You ready to say Kaddish? Huh? You're saying the Mishnah? Okay, fine. I want to therefore wish the family strength, and we should have simchas in the family, in the community. I had a conclusion prepared, but I guess it's done good. I'm sorry? Oh, that's personal family. Oh, the Mishnayos. One of the jobs, okay. No, you just want to warm the story. One of the jobs that I asked Mr. Trappler, I used to call him, to do was, my father, Olav Hashalom, collected Svarim of all kinds. Many of them he inherited from his father. His father collected Svarim. It started when my grandfather, Reb Simon, was in prison, and even there he collected Svarim. Whatever that he could, his brothers were able to sneak into his Siberian labor camp, or rather called better, a death camp, and he survived that camp and came out with a suitcase. We still have it, an old-fashioned suitcase, and it was packed with Svarim and packed with a moil's kit. He was a moil. Anybody who worked for the Friedrich Rebbe's underground network had a suitcase full of, like a mitzvah salesman. So one of the jobs I gave Mr. Trappler was to help me organize some of these materials. And when I went, like I mentioned, I found his hat. I also found a Shulchan Aruch, an old Shulchan Aruch. And in it, I found my notes of Mr. Trappler's application for the job. So I wanted to just show it to the family, but it's not really a public event, but it does remind me of my conclusion. I asked him his name and his social number. You don't want me to announce that now, right? And his mother's name, and he said his mother's name, his mother's mother, and his father, and we went through all the details, your address, his telephone number. But at the end, and this is what really struck me, I wanted to finish with this, and you just reminded me. I said to him, what's your dream? What do you want? And he said, Mashiach now. And I wrote it down, and I put it in quotes. So, Meitz Hashem, his own prayer should come true. Thank you for the honor of allowing me to give my feelings. The Mishnayos of Brachas starts with our Meir's initials. Everyone knows I love Rosh Teves. Me'emasai K'eda Nishma Be'arvis. Me'emasai is letters Meir, Aaron. Backwards, but it's still there for all of us. Everybody, you can start right away. Chazing a Mishnah, the Rebbe describes how beneficial the environment, especially people who are worried about the environment, the ear, and of course our Chassidish environment is affected by Mishnayos. And the Rebbe says every person should chazah some Mishnayos, one Mishnah, and say it wherever you are. It could sometimes save you from a lot of problems. You feel your brain suddenly is overloaded with a worry, or you have too many things on your list to do. It could be you're overloaded with good things. Chazah the Mishnah, and automatically you've neutralized yourself. The Mishnah asks, when do we start saying Ma'ariv? The Shema of Ma'ariv, the Shema of the evening, and the Mishnah answers when the Kohanim, when the Beis HaMikdash will be built. There's a certain time in the evening, right by twilight, when the Kohanim who became Tomei can go in and back to eat the Truma. And then the Mishnah and the Gemara go into why did they give us such an answer? Why don't they just tell us the time? So there's a few arguments when exactly is twilight, but the beginning of the Shema, mainly the beginning of the Mishnah, is to encourage us to say the Shema in the evening time. So that's another mitzvah that we could take upon ourselves. Of course, to connect it with the shocking news of our Meir's departure from this world is that his sun set even before it had a chance to rise. And for that, we should definitely be inspired and motivated to learn a Mishnah. When was he given the chance to say Shema if his twilight and his dawn were so close together? Most of us have a long life, a healthy life, and here, for some reason, Hashem chose his neshama to come down to this world for these years, but the family doesn't get bitter or angry. On the contrary, they were given a gift that they could nurture this child for the years that they had him, but the neshama lives on, and I'm sure he's right here, so to speak, and all the mitzvahs that we do and the learning that we do in his honor will make him smile the good old way that he smiles. And the end of the Brachas has 9 chapters in it. At the end of the last chapters are all about making different brachas that we make, fruits and vegetables, and events. If you see thunder, you hear thunder, or you see lightning. And then at the end it says a Mishnah that's very connected to our case. It says, Chayiv Adam levarich al hara'a kshem shahu mevarich al hatayva. A person is obligated to bench, to say a bracha to Hashem for what seems to be bad, just like he makes a bracha for something that's good. Because it says, V'ahavta es Hashem elikecha, you shall love God your God, b'chol levavcha, with all your heart, b'chol nafshecha, with all your soul, v'chol me'oidecha, another word that has Meir's name in it, Mem Aleph, and with everything that you have. The question is, what does everything mean? So one opinion is, all your money, everything that you have. I empty my pockets for the love of Hashem. So we are to talk about bad or good, that you have to make a bracha. So there's a second opinion. B'chol me'oidecha could also, is a play on the word, b'chol midah u'midah. Me'oidecha means a plural for the word midah, how you're being treated. No matter how you're treated, b'chol midah u'midah, whether you're treated in a good way or in a bad way, this is what Hashem is giving you, and you are obligated to thank Hashem either way. The final words of the Mishnah are, the Mishnah is trying to explain to us that sometimes the Chachamim give us a ruling, even though that's not how it was. Before, in the earlier days, in the Beis HaMikdash, there are certain changes in our davening. For example, Min ha'olam ba'ad ha'olam, they used to say Min ha'olam. And then they added, when they saw that there were people who were laughing and saying, there's no God, there's no second world, this is the world you live in. That the person were denying that there's a Torah, that Torah was Misinai, that there's a Torah Shabal Peh. So the Chachamim at the time in the second Beis HaMikdash instituted that we make a bracha min ha'olam ve'ad ha'olam. They wanted to make sure each one of us says it in our davening that there's two worlds, our world and the world to come. Another connection to the Shloshim. And the last words are, how could you, the Mishnah indicates, how can you change the Torah? The Torah originally, the Tefillas were originally said, Min ha'olam, or that you don't say Hashem's name when you're saying a bracha, because Hashem's name is holy. So the Mishnah rules, sometimes you got to break the Torah to keep the Torah. And these are the last words. Rab Nosson Aimer. Rab Nosson taught us, Hey Feiru Torah Secha. Sometimes you have to undo the Torah. Sometimes you have to change the way of the Torah, because Meshum Eis La'aseis LaHashem, because it's a time that we have to do to be able to make sure that the Torah is secure, that Hashem is secure. Of course, not everyone can do that. There's only occasional times when the Chachamim feel that because of Eis La'aseis LaHashem, it was necessary to introduce a certain ruling. One more time, Eis La'aseis LaHashem, it's time to do something for Hashem. Rabbi Chananya ben Akasha Eimer. That's a Baruch Hu. Amen. 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 Amen.
So the next speaker doesn't need much introduction. Now I'm going to call upon my shviger, Mrs. Trappler, our mayor's mother, to address us.
Shiver, it's very hard. Shiver, I must say, my friends were there for me The community was there for me. We walked around the block, and then I was supposed to get back to normal life. That's not easy. And that Thursday evening, I was sitting on the couch, feeling very, very down and sad. And a close family friend decided to open an Igros for me. And this is the letter that the Rebbe wrote me. Greetings and blessings. I was deeply distressed to hear of your great loss, the tragic death of your young son. May he rest in peace. It is not given to us to know the ways of the Creator. But how can a mortal understand the ways of the Creator? There is no comparing our minds and his. We do not wonder that a small child does not understand the ways and conduct of an old and wise man, though the difference between them is only relative. This is no attempt to minimize the extent of your pain and grief. And I too, says the Rebbe, share in your sorrow, though I am far from you. Even in such a tragedy as this, solace can be found in the words of our traditional expression of consolation to mourners, an expression that has become hallowed by the lore and tradition of many generations of our people. May the Almighty comfort you among the other mourners of Zion and Yerushalayim. We may ask, why mention those who mourn for Zion and Yerushalayim when comforting an individual on his personal loss? A deeper analysis will, however, reveal that the mourner will find comfort precisely in this comparison of his loss with the destruction and exile of Zion for several reasons. First, the mourning of the destruction of Zion and Jerusalem is shared by Jews the world over. It is true that those who live in Yerushalayim and actually see the Western Wall and our Beis Hamikdash in ruins feel the anguish more deeply, but even those who live far away feel sorrow. Similarly, the grief-stricken individual or family will find solace in the thought that all the children of Israel are as one complete whole, that their sorrow is shared by all our people. Second, we have perfect confidence that Hashem will rebuild the ruins of Zion and Yerushalayim. He will gather the dispersed remnants of Israel from the ends of the earth through our righteous Mashiach, and bring them in gladness to witness the joy of Zion and Yerushalayim. We are equally confident that Hashem will fulfill his promise that the dwellers of the dust, the dead, shall awake and give praise. Great indeed will be the happiness and rejoicing then, when we will meet together after the revival of the dead. Third, the Babylonians and the Romans were able to destroy only the Beis Hamikdash of wood and stone, of gold and silver, but they could not harm the inner Beis Hamikdash in the heart of every Jew, for it is eternal. In the very same way, the hand of death can touch only the body, but the soul is eternal. It has simply ascended to the world of truth. Every good deed we do in accordance with the will of Hashem, the giver of life, adds to the merit of the departed soul, as well as to its spiritual welfare. May it be Hashem's will that you and your family know no more pain and distress. May you find true comfort and solace in your communal endeavors, over which guard your Lord, defending the Holy Land. It was a letter written to a soldier or someone who was involved in the military. The land over which God your Lord watches from the beginning of the year until the end of the year, as well in those endeavors of your private life, observing the mitzvah of tefillin, one mitzvah bringing another, and another in its train.
Thank you so much. The letter that my shviger just read is actually written to former Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, which he, after he lost his son. My shver says that his genealogy goes through the mother's side. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but for the next speaker, call upon Sarah Spielman, Aaron Meir's sister, to please address the crowd.
My brother, our Meir, left this world too suddenly and too young. Of all the things people shared about him during the week our family sat Shiva, there was one common thread uniting all the stories and sentiments, and that was his love of people. This is no small thing. Rabbi Akiva said the entire Torah is based on loving others as yourself. What is astounding about my brother is that he loved people more than himself. Our Meir, or Mei as he was known, constantly strived for success. He dreamed big and persevered at no end. His library full of self-help books attests to the fact that he never quit, never stopped trying to be more than he felt he was at the moment. He radiated happiness. He uplifted everyone he encountered. He expressed a sincere curiosity about each person he met and a genuine desire to know them better. He admired everyone, believed in every person's potential, so much so that he once challenged muggers attempting to rob him by questioning the quality of their life that drove them to something so low. They immediately backed off. His honesty and concern disarmed them. I recently found out that May made friends with our mailman, walking along with him on his mail route, engaged in conversation. We were surprised to discover he helped our neighbor with packages and spoke to her about life, although our family was not really close to her. He complimented people profusely. He had confidence in his great ideas, which few of us saw as realistic, and sometimes we dismissed them. His confidence came from a belief in the inherent goodness of the world, the innate goodness of people, the potential of each and every moment. In his 28 years, our Meir was a man of many lessons. An old friend of his described meeting our Meir on the street one day, dressed in a suit and tie. Impressed with his smart attire, the friend asked what he was up to. Our Meir answered, "You never know what life will bring. You have to be prepared for success at any moment." He then pulled out business cards for a new endeavor he had attempted in selling jewelry for newly engaged couples. He had more jobs than can be imagined in a lifetime, crossed more paths with people than the common person is ever conscious of doing. He didn't walk by quickly when he passed someone he knew or even remotely knew on the street. He asked about their kids and their family, asked about their life. He was truly present with each person he encountered. He had more friends than we'll ever know, and he managed to unite a unique community of people in Tzvas and Crown Heights. It was his ability to stop and converse, inquire of another person's well-being, that made his presence so special. He always had time to talk, and he loved to philosophize while offering words of encouragement. Not only did he always do a favor when asked, but responded in a way that showed he felt honored you asked him, that the favor was a gift you were offering. This was a boy who gave so much love and showed so much kindness to others, and still never felt he was doing enough. The lesson we will find ourselves learning from him is, have we achieved this level of love, the type that our Meir showed to others? Do we accept others enough, guiding them in a loving, non-judgmental way? We selected his letter to Rabbi Baruch Jacobsen as it gives a good exposure to his perspective on life and how he saw people and what he expected from them in a relationship. This is one sample of a long trail of discoveries in the profound library that he has left with us. In all the searching our Meir did in his life, what he was truly looking for, he would find in rare moments along the way, and when he grasped it, his happiness knew no bounds. Working with Rabbi Jacobsen was one of those few instances when he found validation and acceptance that, unfortunately, most of us don't always have the time to give others. Rabbi Jacobsen was a true Moshpiah. When a close friend of our Meir's from Tzvas was searching for some answers, some consolation after the tragic passing, he opened up a book of the Rebbe's letters, and this is what he found. Gifted souls enter this world and shine. All that surround them bathe in their light and their beauty. and when they are gone, their light is missed. Challenged souls enter, stumble, and fall. They pick themselves up and fall again. Eventually, they climb to a higher tier, where more stumbling blocks await them. Their accomplishments often go unnoticed, although their stumbling is obvious to all. But by the time they leave, new paths have been forged, obstacles leveled, and life itself has gained a new clarity for all those yet to enter. Both are pure souls, godly in essence, but while the gifted shine their light from above, the challenged meet the enemy on its own ground. Any real change in this world is only on their account. When our Meir was down here, we would often notice his challenges while overlooking his accomplishments. Over the years, he wrote many journals with his thoughts and ideas. While living in Tzvas, he became close with a filmmaker, and our Meir began working on telling his story to a greater audience. This past Hanukkah, our Meir performed an original script for the first time for a play at Ascend in Tzvas. The week he passed away, he called the filmmaker. He said he wanted to make a film of his story. The filmmaker contacted me soon after my brother's passing, determined to bring our Meir's story to life. We have been corresponding back and forth over the past few weeks. In the latest email I received from the filmmaker, the following is some of what he said to me. We looked through and photographed our Meir's journals the other night, and he was very real, honest, and powerful in his writings. I feel it's important to show all his writings clearly, to learn from them, to show the full nature of his humanity, like he was scribbling these words somewhere in heaven. I see a book, movie, and website from all the material that has been left. Much of the book is already there. The filmmaker continued, reading his words, I guess the most important thing is to fulfill his wish. He wrote his story. He has left a script to be published. He will be credited as a writer, and through this, he will have become the person he wanted to be. I don't think any of us realized how much success our Meir did actually achieve, how much he had to teach us. Now we understand the real quality of his neshama, how high it was, and how pained when he saw evil in this world and the darkness of this galus. Perhaps it came to test us. How much Avos Yisrael would we show him? Where we fell short, that's where our work now begins. His life is a light to us all. Wherever we knew him on his journey and we could have embraced him more, that's where we need to begin embracing others. His name says a lot and reflects who he was. Aaron lit the menorah in the Mishkan at the break of dawn. According to the teachings of the Rashbi, this is the time of chesed, since kindness is associated with daytime. Aaron therefore represented the sphere of chesed. The menorah reflected the lights of the upper worlds. It lit everything up through the work of Aaron. Meir also means light. The parsha he was born, Parshas V Eira, talks about Aaron lighting the menorah. The parsha he was nifter, Parshas V Eira, mentions Aaron's name numerous times in his involvement with Meir Trappler in helping the Jewish nation leave Galus Mitzrayim. Our Meir's neshama came down on a tumultuous journey, as if in a lightning storm, flashing revelations from the heavens above. He has lit the way for us to finish the final work we must do to bring the Geula, by showing unconditional love to every Jew in a way that permeates every aspect of existence. He departed on the holy day of Chaf Dalet Teves, the Alter Rebbe's yahrzeit, whose name also means light, and he's resting near the Ari HaKodesh in the holy mountains of Tzvas. I remember how Meir loved reciting Tanya Baal Peh as a small child with his cute raspy voice and round brown glasses, so it's no surprise that the great Kabbalists welcomed him, including the Rebbe's brother. After his burial on Motze-Shabbos, when his friends sing Samalecha Nafshi from Kapitel Samach Gimel, the skies opened up and it began to pour. When the niggin ended, so did the rain. The malachim were crying for such a beautiful neshama. Perhaps our Meir's mission in this world was to make us realize our mission. It was to make us all look at ourselves. He certainly paved paths down here, and I'm sure, because I know my brother always stands up for what is right and expresses himself passionately, that he's paving even higher paths now to bring the final Geula when we will be reunited with all our loved ones, all our Rebbeim and Tzaddikim with Mashiach Tzidkenu.
Very powerful indeed. The Chayenu comes out on a weekly basis. In it, I'm sure everyone knows by now, it's the Chitas and Rambam, and there are Chayenus in the back as you leave. If you can go on chayenu.org/Trappler and help dedicate Sefer Ava in Aaron Meir's memory, it'd be truly a great schus for the neshama. Just a second, there's going to be a slideshow. Before that, I'd like to just share one quick story which exemplified Aaron Meir, a light side to him, which he had a lot of light sides. This is one of them. He was once walking down the street, strolling around in between jobs, and he sees a group of people hanging out on a porch. I don't know what street it was, but it's somewhere in Crown Heights. And he sees a bunch of people on the porch. So he thought it was a l'chaim. So he yells out, Mazel Tov. And someone yelled from the porch. So he said, what's going on here? So they said, no, it's a Shiva house. So Aaron Meir, he didn't mean to laugh. He didn't know it was a Shiva house, but that was him. Anytime he saw people, was always a happy time, a smile, a reason to party, a reason to engage in good conversation. So that was who he was, and that's what he strived to, I guess, rub off onto other people as well. You ready? And without further ado, I would like to introduce my dear Shver, Dr. Trappler, to speak to us and show some slides.
Normally, when I'm in Getzel Shul and I'm speaking, I don't have the luxury of being able to reach the Arba Kanfus Aretz. This is being all videoed, and there's simultaneous Shloshim going on with Mishnayos and so on in Brunois by Rabbi Edri's son, and I sent my Talmud. I sent one of my Talmidim to 770 to do a siyum on Sefer Hamada. And there are various dedications that we're undertaking because there's a certain symbol here of Ahava. And I found that one of the levels of chesed that happened to me, that I was zoicha, that I was surrounded by the right people who could actually express in language and allow me to navigate through this whole process. Because something like this is something that you never want to learn about. And right away, as soon as my Adim came and told me with Rabbi Gazinski about the news, so Rabbi Levi Gorelik was with us, and he was invited tonight, but he's out of town. But there were many shilas that came up, as you can imagine, and the order of business when you're in the military, this is a survival. You're trying to negotiate your own survival and your family's survival. What are the priorities? So the first thing was, since it was Chof Dalet Teves, which was the ferbrenggen, in Tzvas for the Istalkus of the Alter Rebbe, so therefore it became clear to us quickly that given the nature of the bureaucracies in Israel, and you're dealing with lots of different potential obstacles that Baruch Hashem were dissolved as though there was no Olam Hazeh. The entire world synchronized around the participation and the cooperation that my son should be able to go to the right place, and that it should be done b'chesed u'berachmim. One of those inyonim of chesed and rachmim was that I had with me Rabbi Shalom David Gazinski, and through the negotiation of the language, the first thing that became the priority was really the mitzvah. because the Mitzvah, Balabavich, goes up right after the Shiva. So right away, once we realized that we're not going, that they're trying the Chevra Kadisha in Chabad, the Lubavitcher Chevra Kadisha in Tzvas, who I've met with and who I was speaking with, and Menachem Rosenblum was speaking with, and I was delegating, but the issue became that not us going to Eretz Yisrael, verkehrt. By the Rebbe, he did not go to visit Rebbetzin Chana or the Rebbetzin until the Yotzeit. So the idea of going to Israel but not being able to go to the actual kever becomes a problem. So since I, Baruch Hashem, have a son and a daughter of 18 and 20, the first level of dealing with all of the let's say the details in the trenches went to my son Menachem Mendel, and my daughter Chaya, who are there. They won't leave Yerushalayim, but they went with the nifter. They escorted him from the court to Tzvas, and they were there when the Chevra Kedusha took him, and they said the proper Tehillim over Shabbos, and then right Motze-Shabbos he was buried. But I was not able to participate in any of that. So the next priority became the Mitzvah. Now the difference between Jews that went to South Africa and Jews that fled Poland and Russia was that because we came in the beginning of the century, my Alter Baba Sarah Margolius arrived in Cape Town in 1901, and she had 5 daughters. She had 5 daughters, and she became widowed within a few months. Her husband was in an accident. He had a fatal accident, and she was left only speaking Yiddish with 4 daughters, pregnant with the 5th daughter, and living in Cape Town. And she built up a dynasty, a matriarchal-based dynasty. In other words, the men would come along. Malka every Motze-Shabbos was at my Baba's house in Cape Town, and strange I didn't recognize. I remember growing up, I didn't recognize half the people there, but I knew I had lots of cousins. And Sarah Margolius really built a legacy. I have actually one of the I have a template of all the contents which is going to be published in a Quevitz. But there are certain things that I want to emphasize, that I think there are certain names that need to be mentioned. Number one was I have to thank everyone involved in the writing of the Nusach, because I had primary source material. We left B'dai Shalom from Poland, so therefore we were able to bring my Alter Baba brought a Yichus Brief, which Aaron Meir was named after his Alter Zayda, Meir Margolius, who was the Poisek of the Baal Shem. And the Baal Shem had Meir Margolius paskening over 170 provinces in the Ukraine. That kind of information and the as much source information that I had, we had birth registries and naturalization certificates and all of that, and that ultimately led to the Nusach, which we'll show you. But that is based on having the friends around me who could process that kind of information very quickly and get them at Seva up. So if we can show the first up of the words, there were certain changes that had to be made, but the next thing I'd wanted to that I felt was necessary to speak about was the cheshivas, in terms of that there were simonim from right from the get-go. There was simonim that this was a different neshama. We moved into our house on Crown Street, 354 Crown Street, in 1984. and we used to daven at Deutsche Shul. There was a little community there on Crown Street that we really felt like we had a little shtetl going. And we had adjacent houses. The Caymans were there. Remember, is Avi Cayman still here? Avi Cayman, remember the little? We still a shtetl we had. So my natural Rav, the video that Rabbi Jacobsen showed, my Rav was Elia Gross. But what happened was that the bond that developed between me and Elia Gross was, let's say, better than a father and a son. You cannot have that close a relationship with your own child. It was like a Balsheva compared to a tzaddik. I mean, if I could use that kind of language, it's a discovery. It was like a ahava rabbah. It was an ahava rabbah because I loved his wisdom. It was a godly love, and what happened is that my mother had just passed away. It was Tovshin Memhei, 1985. And when I went to South Africa for my mother to Sechura, because I missed the Levi also on the road, but when I got up from Shiva, my wife gave birth to Aaron Meir. What happened was that the Shloshim was planned for my mother, and it happened to coincide with the bris. So his bris was on the Shloshim of my mother, and the sandik was Elia Gross. Why did I get so close to Elia Gross? He was a very big player. He was like, you could say, like Rabbi Hecht. He brought Robert Kennedy to the Rebbe. He kept Interfaith Hospital alive by going to Washington and meeting with Edward Kennedy. And so on. He was a big stage player. He didn't want people to know that he was blind. But I picked it up right away because I'm medically trained, and I saw that he was really struggling, and I spoke to his family about it, and they said, no, he doesn't want anyone to know. Why should people know? He doesn't want to appear to be diminished, and he wasn't diminished in any way. So I became his eyes, and I remember going to the mikveh that morning, taking him to Reb Herschel's mikveh and getting that little piece of soap. And we then went and we had the bris for Aaron Meir. And then what struck me was, this is Beis Rabbeinu, because Elia Hecht took care of Rebbetzin Chana. When he was a bacha that came here from Scranton at age 17, his mother knew the Rebbetzin and said, please keep an eye on my son. So he became a bacha, and the Rebbetzin tested him out. First groceries, taking things to the cleaners, doing certain odds and ends. And then they saw that he became embedded. He was zeicher to become embedded in the Rebbe's house before the Nisias. He told me many stories about speaking conversations that he had with Rebbetzin Chana. But more important was that he took notes on every detail. As a result of him taking notes on every detail that he saw, we were able to create the Sefer Yemei Bereshis. Yemei Bereshis is the days of the early Nisias of the Rebbe from the beginning. And I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Sefer, but it goes before. So this is the environment that Aaron Meir was born into. His sandik was on the Shloshim of his babi, and my babi was my mother was the anacle of one of the Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov, Meir Margolius. And we have some of the material here, and that was used for Nosach. The other person that I wanted to mention, who's very important, because we're actually joining together as a result of the tragic loss, following the tragic loss of my dear friend Rodney Unterschlag, and the South African community has been mourning him for a year. He was the Rebbe's Refi Yedid in South Africa, and also these larger-than-life personalities that I'm talking about. What was interesting was that when I went to visit my son in Tzvas a month ago, 2 months ago now. The last month flew by. We were in Tzvas, and it's the second time I've been in Tzvas. I tried to spend time in that courtyard in front of Mechon Alta, where the Frierdiker Rebbe stayed in that year Tofresh Peites. And one of the things that I learned from my Moshpiah was document. The notes that he used became history for Beis Rabbeinu. So I've been documenting, and there are certain things that I don't know, when the thoughts come to me, and certain things. So I had another one of my Talmidim, who was also a family friend, the Goldman, Shmuley Goldman, helped me collect a folder on all of the correspondence that I've made, basically on the fact that there are so many simonim here of the Geula that I just wanted to freeze the moments and take a look and let everyone see the evidence, because as I see it, everything lines up in a way that's something bigger than what we can see is obviously playing out over here. Now, let me just give you an example. Is that are there any slides there that we should catch up with before I get anything? Who's managing the slides?
Which ones do you want?
Okay, yes. These are all the Talmidim of the Baal Shem. There's a Sefer, which I'll show you in a minute, Sefer Margolius, which basically I had to research. I had to research all of these names and create the map. Can we just move this forward? The names here there's you see Tzvi Hirsch and Adi Leib, Tzvi Hirsch and Adi Leib, and I think it also mentions the Schneur Kodesh. At any rate, we can go into this as schematic representation of that, if I can. Just get it, let's. Okay, let's do the story. It's a custom to say a Baal Shem Tov story in Motze-Shabbos by Malav Malka. So let's look. There's a story which I took out from the Baal Shem. Is there any good orator that I can read my? Or do you want to just read it on the screen yourselves? This. The eminent Meir Margolius, the author of Meir Trappler, the chief judge of the Beis Din of Austria, and his brother, the celebrated Reb Yitzchak Lovber, chief justice of the court in Yeslovich, were both dedicated disciples. We're both dedicated disciples of the Baal Shem Tov. Can you go up, slide it up a little bit? Yes. Yeah. Once, after spending their Shabbos by their holy Rebbe, they wished to take leave on Motze-Shabbos and receive his blessing. My sons, said the Baal Shem Tov to them, so dear are you to me, so great is my love for you, that I wish to have you always close to me. I possess a valuable handwritten siddur which I use for my daily prayers. While write your names and your mother's names in the Can you zoom in a little bit? Okay. Okay. Write your names and your mother's names in the blessing of your choice, in the Shemona Esrei, in the blessing of your choice. So your names will forever appear to be as a remembrance. The Baal Meir Nesivim, whom Meir is named after, regarded his brother. I chose the blessing of the Shemona Esrei. Now, if you take a picture, I went to Beryl 11, and I got the picture of the Baal Shem Tov Seder, which has Tzemach David. Just 1 second. And this is the page, and it's available, and you can look at it in Hebrew as well. It's been translated into Hebrew, proper Hebrew, so you can actually see it. It's Tzemach David. So the family's name is written into the Baal Shem Tov Seder. I wanted to just show you here regarding the dedication, the Rambam dedication. The Rambam dedication, the project was started was started in terms of getting chitas to as far an audience as possible. And since most people are English speaking, today we're participating in dedicating the entire Sefer Ahava. So the entire Sefer Ahava of the Rambam will be dedicated. And anyone who wants to participate in any of these, there's not going to be a fundraiser, but the idea being that these are projects we've left Chayenus at the back because we're dedicating. In the English, Rodney dedicated, the South Africans, the Goldmans, the Teslas dedicated the Tanya. And we're dedicating the first Sefer of the 14 Sforim for Beis Chayenu, and we're leaving the Chayenu as samples out at the back. Everyone is welcome to take one. Another thing that we're doing is that I myself am doing a Siyum at 770 in this Siyum of the Sefer Rambam. And I've made a website for Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. For Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai. Yeah. I also have a website which has in it educational material for Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. What I want to do is I'm creating a list. I'm going to try and get the Shloshim wherever I can to find in their town 10 righteous tzaddikim, 10 righteous from the Ummas Ha'olam, Chassidah Ummas Ha'olam. There are very righteous Gentiles who, at this time of crisis for the Jewish people, want to help us, and they don't know what to do. And there has to be a voice out there. They are being fed informational shtus and nourishkeit. The disinformation and the defamation of the Jewish people is unprecedented. No. There was another thing that I just forgot to mention, was that when I was in Tzvas this year, and I went to where the Frierdiker Rebbe stayed. It's very interesting that the Frierdiker Rebbe stayed at what is now called Mechon Alta is now where they have a Baal Tshuva Yeshiva. It's in Tzvas. The front part of the hotel where the Frierdiker Rebbe stayed was preserved. It's separated off. It's hektish. It's like the Rebbe's room. And there's a courtyard in front of that. And I wonder if you could just show the history of the Frierdiker Rebbe of Beis Rabbeinu, because I'm contributing this with the help of Michael Zelikson, is that there's a whole history of Beis Rabbeinu in Tzvas, in Tofresh Pei Tes, 1929. Frierdiker Rebbe, and this, as I would believe right now, is the only moised that we can say is the only that exists in Tzvas that is connected to the Beis Rabbeinu so closely. So I'm actually, the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote a diary while he was in Tzvas, and it's been published into English. It's been published into English, and that'll be something that I'll be including in the Kovetz as well. Can you just, there's more, just more, a few more, press a few more. Needing Tzvas here, 1, 2, 3. Okay, again, just a few more. This is all about the Frierdiker Rebbe in Tzvas. It'll all be in the Kovetz. It'll all be included in the Kovetz. Very important. Just the idea that we do have a Moised in Tzvas. It's Chabad. It's part of Beis Rabbeinu, and I think it's an important part of our history. The only other thing I wanted to tell you was that there's also. If you look at the one more slide, is that the name of Margolius, the Rashi story, which I also have it in English. The Rashi story is that first Margolius' name was Yitzchak Rabbeinu Tam. He was named after his grandfather's father, Reb Yitzchak. Reb Yitzchak, Reb Yitzchak was the father who was tested with the ultimate test of Mesiras Nefesh in order to bring down the neshama of Rashi. Reb Yitzchak he was a diamond merchant, and he had the most precious stone in the province of France, where they lived. It's a bewusste Mesa that the bishop wanted the stone for Avodah Zarah, and they took Rashi's father, Reb Yitzchak, out into the ocean, and they gave him a choice. Either he sell the stone at a reasonable market price, or if he refuses, over the ship goes. And that whole story is a very famous story because he was able to do some magic, in a sense, that he got possession of the stone, and he tried to convince them that the light had to shine on it in a particular way in order to show its real beauty. And during the process, he fell over the boat into the ocean into the middle of the ocean with the diamond in his hand. And he dropped them, and he threw the diamond into the ocean. On the ship, they weren't sure whether he had the diamond with him or not. So they schlepped him out, and they said, "Where?" And he had a breakdown. He became like David the Melech. What happened? I've lost everything. And they had Rahmanas on him, and they took him back. And that story, the family wanted to preserve. This was Rashi's father. Now, in order for Rashi to be born, that level of Mesiras Nefesh was necessary. And Rashi, as we know, opened up the Torah for us. Reb Yitzchak Rashi had a grandson who was Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam was expelled from France together with all the Jews in the 1200s. In order to preserve the name of Reb Yitzchak, he called himself the Precious Stone. That's the name that he gave himself, the Precious Stone, Margolius. And that precious stone is spoken about a lot in Chassidus, because it has to do with the, if you can show in the Basi Legani Maimah, Perek Yutes. This is the Oitzes HaMelech. This is Pnimius Keser. This is Oitzes HaMelech. The story goes, and the Rebbe gives us this in a Sicha, in the Kute Sicha, Liquid Lamed, that the Oitzes HaMelech is that a king is willing to not only to give up his crown, but he's willing to give up the most precious stone, right on that embedded in the crown of his malchus, is the most precious stone. That's the pneumius of the keser. He's willing to take that and grind it up with water, and a mashahu that's put into a dropper and is put on the tongue of his ben yachid, who is a choila, wakes up the child and brings the child out of the coma. And so the Baal Shem Tov pleaded to the Sanhedrin Lamaila in order to bring down the Torahs of the Rashbi, the Torah of the Ariya Kodesh, in order to bring it down and to give it to the Alter Rebbe, to give it to us. That had to go through Tzvas. But it also had to come down, and it had to come down these from the Talmidei HaBaal Shem Tov. And before the Talmidei HaBaal Shem Tov, it had to be brought down by people like the Ariya Kodesh and the Rashbi. This is the Pneumius Keser. So in the Maimah, the Basi Lagani, so the Frierdiker Rebbe explains us in the Maimah, what is this precious stone? What is this precious stone that the king is willing to grind it up from his crown and put it into the child? Is a metaphor for what? What's the nimshal? And the nimshal is that Am Yisrael is in a matzav of sakana, and the only way that we can overcome the adversary is to hold on to the gartel of a tzaddik. And we have the Rebbe, and everything that the Rebbe told us to do, the kelim are all put in place, and all we have to do is to follow what the Rebbe told us to do with the BSAs, BSAs, with the toikev, and with the ava and the simcha and the levav.
Thank you so much. I told my shver it should be 10 minutes. I'm sorry that Achrin Chaviv. As I said before, our Meir frequented many shuls, and he gave off a tremendous warmth to every person that he met. And one of the places that also reciprocated that love and is a pillar in our community, I'd like to introduce the rabbi and spiritual leader of Chevra Avos Yisrael, Rabbi Chazi Dennerbein, who had a very close relationship and felt very close to Aaron Meir. Aaron Meir felt very, very close to him. And just to share a few words with us, Rabbi Chazi Dennerbein, also a dear friend of mine.
I think everything that should have been said has already been said. Kind of leaves me in a strange place. I do want to let you know that my personal relationship with Adam Meir goes back since I'm 13 years old. He came to Los Angeles for a few months. I don't know why. He went to yeshiva, I know. I'm not sure. It was at the end of the year. He somehow came to the yeshiva, and me and my brother Arik became very tight with him. I think we felt kind of cool that he gave us attention, you know. And then I didn't see him for a long time when I went to other yeshivas. And then I came back over here, and then I started to see him in New York again. He would come to our shul a lot. And he always used to tell me these kind of great, fantastical ideas that he had. I remember him talking to me always about like the cosmos and different like really great radical stuff. And I didn't know if I should take him seriously or not. And I regret it a little bit, actually a lot. Because I don't know how seriously I should have taken him. And maybe I didn't take him seriously enough. And I know he went back to Tzvas and hung around with my brother-in-law and my sister Moish and Musi in Tzvas. He became very tight with them. But one thing that I always blew my mind about Meir is he was such an Oiv Yisrael. He was like a real lover. I could swear I never met him even one time and he had something negative or horrible to say. And like, even though, you know, I'm the rabbi of a shul who's called Chabad Yisrael, probably 98% of my day is full of hate and anger, all types of like negativity, and you'd be surprised to find out that on a regular day it's like it's just full of resentment and like he was so full of love and you hope. When everything was down and out, not even for 1 second did he forget what his dream was. He was full of hope. And the real thing was that he was such a deep Oiv Yisrael. I know someone who was just here, he left a few minutes ago, a friend of mine, he davens by our shul, and he said the first time that he came not the first time that he met Aaron Meir, it was by our shul, and he said, "Hey, I know your brother, how's your brother doing?" He said, not in a bad way, he said, "Why don't you ask me how my dog is doing? Why don't you," in other words, he was saying, "Why don't you ask me how I'm doing?" And it sounds like a light thing, and like the truth is that's the only thing that was the ikar of everything. And I feel that sometimes we get so farchapt in all of the all of the little nitty gritty parts of the law, and we forget about the spirit of the law. And it's especially important about, we spoke about it today, about this week's Seder as Parshas Mishpatim. There's a vort of Simcha Banim B'Shischa, the Heilige B'Shischa. He says, Ve'ela Mishpatim asher tasim lifneihem. These are the laws you should put before them. He says, you think that it just means that these are the laws you should put before them? Forget about it. Everyone already knows the laws. The Torah doesn't need to tell you how to be a Jew. It doesn't need to tell you that you shouldn't kill and that you shouldn't steal. That's for sure everybody knows. Why does he tell us the entire Torah? I'll tell you why. He says, Ve'ela mishpatim, you should know that all of these laws that you got so involved with, that you got so completely subsumed by all of these laws, you should remember asher tasim lefneim, that these laws actually came before. They came from some type of deep primordial place. You want to know why you have all of these laws? Is there a drink or something? Terrible dry mouth. I'm sorry. This is not for comic effect. This is for real. I can't even say one more word. Oh, thank you. He says, the Pshishcha says, Ve'ela mishpatim asher tosim lifneihem. All these things that you got so consumed by, they were really something, there was something much higher, that came much before that. It was asher tosim lifneihem, lifnai v'lifnim. And it reminded me of a story that I one time heard, and I'm not trying to, I don't want to, take advantage of this moment to push some kind of agenda. However, I one time heard a story where there was a guy, he was a very wealthy man, he was also happened to be a miserly person, and he was a misnagid. I know. And basically, this guy, a beggar one time knocked on his door, and he said, "Excuse me, Rabbi, give me something to eat before I die." So he said, "Oh, for you? I'll do anything in the world." He says, "Hold on 1 second, don't come into my house." He went into his house, he went into the kitchen and took out from the garbage a rotten, stinking piece of fish, and he gave it to him to eat. The guy ate the fish. Within 4.5 minutes, he already contracted salmonella and another 35 diseases. He was almost dead. when this guy who gave him the food, he heard that this guy already went to the hospital, he said, wow, I have such a big mitzvah. Bikkur Cholim. He right away went to the hospital, he's Mevarkei Cholim. Within 3 days, he heard that the guy was dead. Gewalt, what a mitzvah I have to do now. I have to go do, I have to do Avodas HaMeis. I have to go, there's no bigger mitzvah in the Torah than Avodas HaMeis. He did Avodas HaMeis, and right away, of course, he had to do Nechem Avelim. After a hard week's work of mitzvahs, mamish, klibe mitzvahs, he comes back to his wife and he says, who would have thunk that from a stinking piece of fish I could get 4 unbelievable mitzvahs of the Torah? And when I heard the story, I was a child, so it didn't mean anything to me. When I heard it again in my mind recently, I said, oh my God, we get so caught up in the letter of the law, which of course is 100% absolutely necessary, that we forgot the point of the law. We forgot the whole point of the Torah and mitzvahs. Lo nitna Torah elo kidei lasis shalom ba'olam. Lo nitna Torah elo kidei l'tzaref ben hasabriyos. Instead, we got so consumed with all of the minutiae of our life and what we've been raised with our communities and with our families and with our tradition, that we forgot the whole point of all of it. So why did we do all of this in the first place? If even one thing that we do should make another person go further away, you're 100% sure that it comes from Sitra Achra. If even one tiny thing that you do is going to be merachik another person, for sure it doesn't come mitzadik dusha. And I think about it now in terms of my friend Meir Trappler. He's a close friend since I'm 13 years old. That's 14 years relationship. Almost 15 years. And Meir was an Oiv Yisrael. It's like his name, Aaron HaKoyen. Oiv Sabriyas U'Makoven LaTorah. Oiv Shalom V'Roidev Shalom. That was his only thing. I remember he always would tell me, don't be nispol from the malign. He would say, when I make $1 million, I'm going to give it to you. Still, he didn't give me the money. And, yeah, it's okay. I'll forgive him on that one. But he's such an Oiv Yisrael. And I think about, if I was an Oiv Yisrael to him, did I love him like I could have loved him? And the truth is, I know that I didn't, because if I did, I'm 100% sure that he would be saying this speech for me right now, not fakert. And maybe I didn't love him like I should have loved him. Even though I tried, or I don't know. But now I think, do I love every person that I meet as much as I could have loved them? Probably not. No. I know for sure one person that I hate, mamish, terrible, and now I'm sure that I don't, like, I'm not going to continue bulbing. It's a Motze-Shabbos. And I want to give a bracha to the family, especially. And Reuvain, of course, Moshe, Dovi, and Chaya in Eretz Yisrael. Just gave her a letter to make Aliyah. I had a big schos. Thank you. I'm thanking myself. And Chani and Miriam, and of course Rebitz and Spielman. The whole family. I want to give a bracha to all of you. We should all together stop being so concerned with all of the little narishkeiten. We should start remembering a little bit more how to love and how to live and how to laugh. And even when we're mamish in the lowest place in the world, and we all are at different times, we all go to terrible, terrible times in our own way. We should be zoiche to always laugh and to be happy and to enjoy, like Aaron Meir. I just saw him in Tzvas when I was there. I brought a whole group of birthright kids, and he was mamish rocking these. Get it? He was working this crowd like everything that I tried in the whole trip, not even half a second. He was like, and we should be zeicher that kitzu v'ranenu sheichnu yafar v'hu b'seicham b'agola didan al dem sheich tzidkenu Meir v'yameinu mamish.
I forgot one very, 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 very important speaker. It's going to be very, very short. Please, whoever can stay, please stay. My niece, Hannah Spielman, prepared something to say. Very nice story. It's a little bit light, so whoever can listen and because the theme of the evening has been obviously Yisrael, etc. The story is going to talk about that.
On the story, it's condensation, and it's also going to be in the Kovitz. The file is there with the full story. It was given out by Rivka on the 100th Histalkus of Rebbe Tzin Rivka.
A story was told at the annual yeshiva dinner. There were 30 bachurim in this yeshiva. They used the local shul as their place of learning. Reb Chaim, the dean, was unable to stand due to the paralysis of his right leg. One particularly frigid winter night, as the bachurim were sitting and learning as usual, a wagon driver rushed into the shul and yelled, "You've got to help me. My wagon just overturned and landed on top of my horse, and the reins are all tangled up around his neck, and if we don't turn the wagon over at once, the horse will choke to death. If the horse dies, God forbid, I will be left without any means of parnasa. Please help me," he pleaded. "I can't do it by myself." A discussion ensued about whether or not the bachurim should leave their studies to help the wagon driver. It was decided it was wrong to stop learning to help him. About half an hour later, the desperate wagon driver returned, pleading in even stronger language to come to his aid. This time, it was decided that it was permissible. They left the shul and followed the wagon driver, only to find that they had arrived too late. The horse was already dead. Someone asked Reb Chaim, the dean, sitting on the stretcher while holding the microphone, "What happened to the wagon driver, What happened to the wagon driver?" Reb Chaim responded, "He came to town a short while ago and couldn't afford a place to stay, so we allowed him to sleep on a bench in the base medrash. He would eat from the leftover from the kiddushim. After about a year, he passed away. The judge decided that he should be buried amongst the tzaddikim. Inquiries were made to discover why he had obtained such great recognition after he passed away. The bachurim went to collect his personal belongings, and when they opened his drawer, they found a very mahodidic pair of tefillin with kisvei arizal, as well as his own deep discourses in philosophy and Kabbalistic works." "And what was the reason I became paralyzed?" asked Reb Chaim. "I was one of the bachurim who insisted on learning when his horse choked."
I'd like to just thank everyone for coming again. On your way out, there are pennies in the back by the tzedakah pushka to put in tzedakah, and we should, from now on, only share simchas together, and we should be zeicha to be reunited with the Rebbe and with our Meir, and we should have the gula take of Miyad Mamish.